Hello everyone, this is Mr. Underkoffler. Today we're going to be looking at part 2 of the guided notes called Writing Inequalities to Solve Problems. We already did part 1 last time. The only reason I have a number or less highlighted here is because I actually used that on one of the problems we were doing in part 1. I want to remind you here about the key to success. In every word problem, you got to find the words that mean the inequality symbol. And once you do, the words that mean the inequality symbol and the number that comes next in the sentence, that part must be written mathematically in the same order as it's written in the sentence. So let's use that for some of the problems we're going to be looking at today. We already did number 7 in part 1. We are now at problem number 8. Follow along, get your pencils ready. Here we go. It says an internet provider charges $85 for installation and $65 each month. How many months of internet service with this provider would bring the total cost to no less than $1,125? Okay, like we just read from the key to success on the first page, we need to find the words that mean the inequality symbol. The phrase no less than means the inequality symbol. And it just so happens that this value, $1,125, is immediately next in that sentence. Why does that matter? Write this down. No less than means greater than or equal to. You're like, why? Because if it's not allowed to be less than, then you can be greater than or you can be equal to. Where does the $1,125 go? Well, since it was to the right of the words no less than, it needs to be to the right of the inequality symbol. It has to be written mathematically in the same order as it was written in that highlighted part of the sentence. The words that mean the inequality symbol and the number that comes next. Okay, obviously there was information given to us in the first sentence, and obviously we should know what we are trying to solve for. This problem is asking us to find out how many months of internet service. So M is a logical choice for our unknown variable. But what did this problem say? It said $85 for installation. So let's write that down. $65 each month. Well, there's that word month. We're trying to find the number of months. So 65 each month means 65 times the amount of months. So we're going to put 65 times M. What should we put in between? Well, there was no words given to us that has a math meaning that would go in between. The word and doesn't really mean anything mathematically. So we'd have to just logically figure this out. What would you do in real life if you're trying to get the total cost that you're spending for the internet service? Well, to get totals, you add things together. So there you go. It makes sense that you would take the amount of money that you spent for installation, add that to the amount of money you're spending each month to keep your internet service going, add those values together to get the total amount of money that you have spent after so many months. Okay, let's solve this together. The variable has two things happening to it. It is being multiplied by 65, and then it is being added by 85. Ooh, that's a bad color for me to choose here. Perhaps I shouldn't choose that. Well, let's go in the order of SADMAP, which is the reverse of PEMDAS. So basically, completely backwards from order of operations. Get rid of the adding part first. So the inverse of adding by 85 is subtracting by 85. Let's write it down. Do it on both sides. What do we get? Well, the left side, we're going to get a 0. We're going to get 65M. And on the right, we're going to subtract and get 1,040. From here, what's still happening to my variable? It's still being multiplied. So what's the inverse? To divide. Do it on both sides. Should our inequality symbol switch direction? No, it should not, because we did not divide by a negative. We divided by a positive. If we were dividing by a negative or multiplying by a negative on both sides, then the inequality symbol would need to switch direction. All right, use your calculator. What is 1,040 divided by 65? You should have got 16. And since we are trying to find how many months, let's put the word months as the label on our answer. Okay, let's do another one together. Problem number 9. Hurricane Albert has wind speeds of 81 miles per hour. Tropical storms are classified as being no more than 74 miles per hour. How much do the wind speeds need to decrease for Albert to be downgraded to a tropical storm. Okay, that was a bit of an interesting problem here. Let's find the words that mean the inequality symbol. Can you find them on your own? Feel free to hit pause real quick. Okay, I hope you went ahead and found it. The phrase no more than, that means the inequality symbol. And notice what number is right after it. It's 74. So, no more than means it cannot be more than. That's why it's less than or equal to. If you looked it up on the very first page's table, that's what you would have seen. Where do I write the 74? Well, notice the 74 is to the right of the words no more than. Therefore, it needs to stay on the right. If you put it on the left, you're doing it wrong. You better hit pause and fix it real quick. Use your eraser. Now, the 81 obviously is going to go on the left. But what do I do with the 81 and the variable? In fact, what is my variable? I'm trying to find how much do the wind speeds need to decrease. That's a bit of a mouthful. So maybe we pick W, maybe we pick S, wind speeds. I guess either choice would be fine. What would I do with 81 and our W or S? Well, I'm trying to get the wind speeds to decrease. Decrease. So that it can be downgraded to a tropical storm. What does this mean mathematically? It means to subtract. But here's what's unique. It's 81 minus the wind speeds, not the other way around. Because Hurricane Albert currently has wind speeds of 81. We're trying to find out how much does that need to go down? How much does that need to decrease in order to eventually be less than or equal to 74 miles per hour to be a tropical storm? So, do you remember what we do when the variable is to the right of the minus? You cannot answer what's happening to the variable by reading backwards, right to left, with subtraction. You can't. Switching the order of subtraction is a big no-no. So here's what you do. You're going to have to make it become adding the opposite. Why? Because now you have addition, and now it's totally cool to read backwards when you ask yourself, what's happening to the variable? The variable is being negativized, that's kind of funky, and then being added by 81. Well, we know the inverse of adding by 81 is subtracting by 81. Go ahead and write this down. And this will work. 81 minus 81 is 0. That's a good thing. That's going to make that gone. On the right-hand side, that's going to give us negative 7. If you don't believe me, you could quickly make subtraction here become adding the opposite. And you see the bigger absolute value is the negative. So it's negative 7. But how do I solve it when it's a negative variable? Well, get your pencils ready. 1 times anything is itself. So negative W is the same as negative 1W. Now, normally I wouldn't want to throw a 1 on a variable for no good reason. But I'm trying to figure out how to do an inverse in order to get the variable by itself. So this is going to help. Because now you can say the variable is being multiplied, because it's right next to it, nothing in between, by negative 1. And what's the inverse of multiplying by negative 1? Well, it's dividing by negative 1. You see now why I threw that 1 between the negative sign and the W? Now it's all making sense. So here we go. A negative divided by a negative gives you a positive. Ooh, spoiler alert. When you divide by a negative, the inequality symbol switches direction. That's the rule we talked about on a previous packet of guided notes. Cannot forget that. That only happens when you multiply or divide by a negative on both sides. And that's exactly what we did. So we're trying to find wind speeds, and these wind speeds are in miles per hour. That's why I put the labels of NPH, miles per hour, on this problem. Okay. Now that I've led you through 2 problems where they both ended up having 2 inverse operations. This one was a little bit more obvious, but this one you saw how we did it. Now that I did 8 and 9 with you, why don't you try numbers 10 and 11 on your own? Hit pause, do 10 and 11 on your own, finish them up, and once you're done, then hit play so you can see how you did. Okay, did you already do 10 and 11? Well, Here are the words that mean the inequality symbol, at least, and the very next thing is $500. Did you write down greater than or equal to, because at least means greater than or equal to? 500 should be on the right. If you put it on the left, you did it backwards. Fix it if you have to. Hit pause if you need to. We know that he is earning $15 per hour, and we are literally trying to find out how many landscaping hours that he needs. So that's our variable, our H, if you will. 15 per hour doing landscaping means 15 times the hours for the landscaping. But he's also earning $35 for 1 afternoon of painting. We know 35 times 1 is 35. What would I do in between to get the total? Well, we had this back on number 8. You would add things together to get the total. So there you go. If you had it set up wrong, feel free to hit pause, fix it, and that's going to change then how you will solve it. What's happening to the variable? It's being multiplied and then it's being added. Let's go in the reverse order of operations. Get rid of the adding first. Inverse of adding is subtracting. Do it on both sides. You'll get the 0 here, bring down the 15h, and on the right you will get 465. Let's finish this up. Variable's not by itself yet. What's the inverse of multiplying? Dividing. Use your calculator, you're going to get 31. Since we're trying to find the number of landscaping hours, we are going to write this down as 31 hours. Now, you could call it 31 landscaping hours if you would like. That would be fine. And that's the solution. Let's see how you did on problem number 11. Did you find the words that meant the inequality symbol? It was the phrase, is no more than 10 below 0. And I like to always highlight the number that comes next. So, if it's no more than, then that means it cannot be more than. Therefore, it should be less than or equal to. Now, where do I put this 10 below 0? Well, since it's to the right of the words no more than, you need to keep it to the right. But did you catch the fact that it's below 0? Temperatures below 0 are negative temperatures. Oh, if you got that wrong, feel free to hit pause. Fix it, and that might change your answers underneath as well. Okay, it used to be 23 degrees. That's going to go over here. How much has the temperature dropped? Well, I guess we could call it T or D. But the word dropped is kind of like the word decrease that we had back on number 9, which means to subtract by the unknown temperature. Oh, this is another problem like number 9, where the variable is to the right of the minus. If you did not have that correct, hit pause now and fix it, and then maybe resolve it if you need to. Okay, just like on number 9, if the variable is to the right of the minus, you should make it adding the opposite right away, because you cannot read backwards, right to left, when you try to answer what's happening to the variable. The variable is being actually multiplied by -1 if you already went ahead, and then being added by 23. So let's get rid of the 23. Inverse of adding by 23 is subtracting. Yes, 23 take away 23 will give you 0. On the right, if I don't want to have to use a calculator, and I really shouldn't have to with an easy number like -10, then I should make subtraction quickly become adding the opposite, and that's going to give me -33. Did you make the -t become -1t? So that way you will know how to finish solving this problem. Inverse of multiplying is dividing by -1. And a negative divided by negative is a positive. Should the inequality symbol switch? Well, since we divided by a negative, yes, 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 it should switch direction. Did you do that? Please check. And did you put degrees Fahrenheit, since everything else in this problem was talking about degrees Fahrenheit for the temperatures? And there you go. And that finishes up the guided notes called Writing Inequalities to Solve Problems. This was part 2. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.